D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Nute here with you. I'm back. Who missed me? Don't rush to all raise your hands up at once.
1, 2, 3. No, we missed you, Adam.
I missed y'all too. I was not in Cancun.
The gang is back together.
Yes, indeed. We hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I thought it was the end times this morning, the way it was raining.
Man, it's been raining forever.
Crazy weather day, but I am glad we're back. And you know what I learned coming back into the studio for the first time in about a week and a half? When you miss a little, you miss a lot. Derrick Mason, he's got a new chair.
Absolutely.
Willie Donick is positively glowing because Mahoney Donick and the Denison Big Red are headed to the D3 College World Series. He's got his Denison Big Red shirt on right now, going for the record in their next game. Denison has won 44 consecutive games, tied for the most in Division III baseball history. So one more, and the Big Red have the record. It's more about than just the record, of course.
Yes.
The Big Red want to win the title, but 45 consecutive wins. That would be something, Willie Donick.
It was something. And it's not like they're just blowing through everybody. The last 8 games, they've been behind. In 7 of the 8, there have been 3 walk-offs. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple other games where it's been tied in the 8th or later. It's been amazing to watch, but they have made it through. Most important thing is they're in the World Series, and that's the goal. I mean, the record would be great, but winning the title. Coach Willie is focused on the title.
The title.
One at a time. First up, East Texas Baptist, the 8 seed.
East Texas Baptist.
The Tigers
of
East Texas Baptist from Marshall, Texas.
Was that the team Steve Sarkisian was talking about the other day that said if they had their 2s and 3s, they would have won in that conference and won a national championship? Did you hear this comment?
No.
Steve Sarkisian, he was talking about Texas Tech, but he said there's a team in our state that if we were to send out our 2s and our 3s in their conference, we would win a national championship.
Well, I could have been talking about.
So he's talking about East Texas. Baptist.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Bring it.
Bring it on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
East Texas Baptist, they reseed when you get the 8 teams there. So they are, relatively speaking, the Cinderella. They upset the number 2 team in the country, Lynchburg, 2 out of 3 on the road in the Super Regional. So they're coming in on a roll. They're good. Like, never underestimate baseball players from Texas. They can play some baseball.
So once you get in the playoffs, is it 2 out of 3? How is it?
It's exactly, if people watch Division I in the postseason, it's the exact same format. So it's regional, super regional, and then the College World Series, which is basically a repeat in a more condensed amount of time. It's 2 4-team brackets, double elimination. The winners of each bracket will go head to head in the finals later this week up in Cleveland, Eastlake, Ohio.
And on the other side of Denison's bracket, Johns Hopkins. I've heard of Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins.
Sorry, Johns.
Perennial power.
I've heard of Johns Hopkins. Yes. And then a school called Baldwin Wallace.
Baldwin Wallace. They're right next door. They're in Ohio, right up the road from Denison in the next conference over. They're good. Denison has beaten them twice.
I'm learning so many schools today.
That's you got to know I'm learning the Division III. Division III has the best nicknames, by the way, of all.
Who is Baldwin Wallace? What is their nickname? They have like a last name, first name.
They are the Yellow Jackets.
Wallace Baldwin.
Meh, the Yellow Jackets. It's been done
before.
Yeah, but there's some others that you'd be impressed with.
Okay.
The Rowan out of New Jersey, who eliminated Denison last year, and they're back. They are the Prophets.
The Rowan Prophets.
The Profs for short.
Okay.
Do we really need to shorten Profits?
Yeah.
It's not a long word to begin with.
That's a good.
It's cooler.
I'll ask somebody if that.
It sounds cooler. It sounds cooler.
Johns Hopkins is the Blue Jays.
Yep.
East Texas Baptist is the Tigers. Nothing.
But Johns Hopkins doesn't look like they would be represented by the Blue Jays. Like Johns Hopkins, Blue Jays, they don't go together. No.
Well, Johns Hopkins is in Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Were there many Blue Jays in Baltimore when you were there?
I didn't see many.
Ravens, though.
Yeah, Ravens. They could have called it the John Hopkins Ravens.
Be a little repetitive, but they would do it. They'd be copying. Endicott
There's
out
a
of
bunch of
out of
teams
Boston
copying.
is the goals. I mean, just that's
Endicott's goals.
the
Okay.
Endicott goals out of Boston, and then
Makes sense.
Adrian is not the Yo's.
Rocky.
Yo, Adrian's
Adrian's Rocky.
Adrian. I forgot. They're from Michigan.
Ew.
They're the Bulldogs, I think.
Yo, Adrian.
Well, we are rooting for the Big Red.
Go for the
This
Big
is a Big Red program. So when is their game this week?
Friday at 12:15 Nashville time. It's a quadruple header up at East Lake, right outside of Cleveland. It's the home of the Guardians Class A team. So it's a nice minor league stadium. So they'll play. Their bracket is first. So it's Johns Hopkins against Baldwin Wallace, followed by Denison and ETBU.
ETBU.
East Texas Baptist
Let's
University.
go.
All righty.
Denison, Big Red.
go from there.
Congratulations to the Big Red. 44 consecutive wins, tying a Division III
Yep.
baseball record.
4 by Mahoney Donick, by the way,
Yeah.
out of the 44.
So,
Very nice.
4-0.
without Mahoney, they wouldn't have got to the 44.
That's
Seriously.
right.
If he doesn't win those four,
Every member of that team
exactly.
has contributed to 44 consecutive wins. So we will be watching with much interest later this week. So I have prepared a little ditty
Oh, of your vacation?
about what I missed when I was gone.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. I will perform it to the tune, quote unquote, perform it to the tune of We Didn't Start the Fire.
Mhm.
Okay.
I feel like that song's been circulating a lot at ballparks recently. It's been coming back around. It's been a popular.
It's a classic.
It's a classic.
It is a classic. All right, here I go. Nashville getting Super Bowls. Robert Saleh, no seed oils. You have to say oils, like someone from the
Like Nate
South.
Bargatze.
Right.
Yeah.
Oils. So Nashville getting Super Bowls. Robert Saleh, no seed oils. Okay, so
Keep
far
going.
so good.
Keep going. I like it.
Okay. Preds still have no GM. That damn search will never end.
Okay.
Although we'll talk about that in the 4:00 hour. Titans holding OTAs. Cameron Warts has lost some weight, throwing darts to Carnell Tate. What else do I have to say?
I like
All
it.
right.
Okay.
All right.
I like it.
That's about what I missed, right?
Oils,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You covered it.
Bowls and Oles.
Pretty soon you'll be selling out Dodger Stadium.
There we go.
Oh, man. Well, it's awesome. Look, it's awesome that
Oh, man.
Nashville is getting the Super Bowl
Yes.
in 2030. And I know it's around 3.5 years from now, but I'm already sick of all of the Nashville bits that all of the people coming to Nashville are going to do during that week.
Mm.
Like I'm imagining right now, Pat McAfee with some big ass belt buckle and a big ass hat, strolling Broadway, everybody doing all of the stereotypical Nashville things. And I know we're all very excited about the Super Bowl. I also know that all of you are going to be very excited the day after the Super Bowl in 2030 when everybody goes home. But it's really cool. I know that we were expecting it, but to get the formal announcement of Nashville hosting the Super Bowl in 2030, it's very cool.
What I've noticed, it's like, and again, it's great. And I can't look for, I mean, I can't wait to, that day coming. I'm pretty sure everyone in this building feels the same way. But when will because people are, social media is just going crazy about this. And you see some every day as if the Super Bowl is next year. When will it calm down just a little bit? And then, because I know the year before it will pick back up. So when will it calm down? Because right now it's a fever pitch. And people should be excited. But I'm saying, when is it going to be, okay, we're getting Super Bowl?
Probably around training camp when
Yeah,
we
you may be
have
right.
other football-related
Stuff to talk
things
about.
to discuss.
Yeah.
And then for a couple of years, we won't totally care about it. I mean,
Mhm.
we'll care about it because it's cool, but we won't talk about it. We'll probably start talking about it during the Super Bowl the year before, like
Yes.
1 year out. Nashville, Super Bowl 2030. It's Super Bowl 64, right? Super Bowl 64 in 2030. I love 64, Nintendo 64, all of that. So great. Super Bowl 64. So that very cool that Nashville is getting the Super Bowl. I made a joke last week on social media that I'm going to put my house on Airbnb for $1,000 a night, and multiple people told me, you're not thinking big enough.
Yeah, you're really not. I was about to just say that. Yeah, you're not, man.
Couple thousand?
Yeah, I would.
At least $2
10.
grand per night? It's a 3-bedroom house.
2,500.
It's a 3-bedroom house.
2,500 per night. And the closer you are to downtown, the more the price goes up.
I mean, I'm not as close to the stadium as Willie, but I'm pretty close to the stadium. It's like a 10-minute Uber ride to where new Nissan Stadium is going to be. So
I just may rent out my house.
you should.
Yeah.
It would be cooler to
It's
stay
about
at Derrick
15 minutes.
Mason's house than
It'd be
my
15
house.
minutes from the stadium. So there we go.
What do you make of all of this seed oil stuff from Robert?
That was my first question on Friday.
Yeah,
to
I mean, it's I don't mind it. And I know, when it was said, people didn't expect him to come out with that answer. Typically, I don't know if TD asked the question or someone else, but typically, it's player related, like a person or something in the building or on the practice field. But he went straight to their nutrition. And what that tells me is that he's worried about the margins. He cares about the margins. He cares about the little small things, because if you look at it, I mean, those guys, they've been eating that oil in their food some kind of way, and they probably continue to perform at a high level. But when Saleh looked at it, and I'm sure he had the doctors and nutritionists, he's trying to minimize inflammation in everything. When a guy gets injured, what is the protocol? It's to get them back on the field as quickly as possible. That's what it is. But you don't want to send them out there hurt. So as a head coach, I'm trying to do anything that's going to, lessen their time inside of the training room and keep them on the field. So if it's taking out oils and changing this and that, then that's what I'm going to do as a head coach, because I'm a stickler about the detail, and I'm a stickler about the margins. We always talk about the margins. Great coaches are great because they know how to beat you between the margins. Belichick used to beat people between the margins, whether
by cheating.
By cheating, but whether
Oh, sorry, did I say that?
whether he knew about a rule that didn't nobody else know about, or
A loophole,
or it was just having an emphasis on certain things that other people, they probably mentioned it, but it wasn't detailed enough. That's why he was winning so much, and what you said, and having Tom Brady. But Saleh understands, maybe he didn't do that with the Jets. Now he comes to Nashville after spending a year in San Fran, and they probably got some things that they're doing now different. He wanted to implement those things to his ball clubs, because he believes that if they win between the margins, then that allows them to sort of expedite the process of them becoming a better team.
The problem, of course, Willie, is seed oils are a bit of a controversial topic, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his lot claim that they're harming our health. There is medical/scientific evidence that suggests otherwise. So when you bring up seed oils, it becomes, no pun intended, a bit of a political football.
Well, the Giants know about the political football these
Oh,
days.
my
Ooh, we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah,
But
yes,
yeah, I do think the principle of trying to win on the margins is a good one, because everything in the league is designed for everybody to be even. So the difference between the best team and the worst team is relatively thin compared to some other sports. And that's what we love about it. And you try to do everything within the rules of giving your team an edge. And so if your sports scientists are telling you, this is better for you if you avoid this stuff, whatever it might be, whether it's seed oil or anything else in your diet, in your sleep patterns, things that we didn't think about much in the previous generations.
no,
It's not like it's rocket science to say, you need to get a good night's sleep. But there's a difference between that and being a young professional and really having somebody say, here's how you quantify those extra hours of sleep. And here's how we quantify the nutrition in your diet. Not running out and taking all these supplements and then running out and get a Happy Meal or, a combo meal with a quarter pounder and some extra fries and a Coke, right? All of that stuff does add up over time, those little things. And so if you can do a lot of little things that help collectively your team be a little bit better, it could be the difference in success and lack of success.
It's like me, after I think it was like the second year of being in the NFL, I said I wasn't drinking anymore, no more alcohol. There's a backstory behind that, but it came to a point where I was like, I'm not drinking no more. It's like one of those days you wake up, it's like, oh, Lord, please, if you get me through this, I will not drink no more. That's how it was. And I didn't drink. But what I saw from that and removing red meat from my diet, I was when I got injured, this is me. I'm not talking about anybody else's body. This is what I thought. By not having that alcohol in my body throughout the season and even after the season, removing certain things from my diet, the big one for me was red meat. I found that my body reacted different, especially in the physical sport. I was able to, in my mind at least, I was able to come back from what would have been a weak injury. I was able to come back a lot sooner than that. So I attribute some of it to my, not having or taking certain things out of my diet, whether it be things I was drinking or the things I was eating. So if it worked, if he's seen that it has worked, why not? Because like Willie said, every team, this league is structured at one point for everybody to be 8-8. Now we know that can't happen now because, there's 17 games, but the league is designed that way. Okay, if the league is designed that way, then how can I win around the margins? How do I do that? Well, one of them is, hey, listen, if you got the quarterback, you're going to win. So let's put that to the side. But it's the other things that are not necessarily football related, meaning on game day. How can I win on those margins?
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Do you like seed oils? I mean, I do.
I don't even know what those are, really. I had to ask.
It's in fried food.
Yeah. It's in ultra-processed foods, which I love. I love ultra-processed foods.
The problem is ultra-processed foods do taste good.
They taste
really good.
Fantastic.
They taste good.
Yeah.
They may not be good for you.
No.
There may not actually be food in those foods.
Correct.
But they taste good.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, as we mentioned, we're very proud of Mahoney Donick and the Denison Big Red for advancing to the D3 College World Series. Unfortunately, Vanderbilt will not be participating in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2005, ending the longest streak in the country. Where do the Vandy boys go from here? We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. The 615 Open Golf Tournament might be sold out. It's also later this week on Thursday. But you can bid on all kinds of awesome experiences to directly support Folds of Honor at 615open.com/auction. Have an unforgettable time while supporting a great cause. That is 615open.com/auction. 1025 The Game is your racing station. This weekend, catch all the action as NASCAR comes to the Nashville Superspeedway on 1025 The Game, presented by City Auto and Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery. Friday, the Allegiance 200 at 6:30 p.m. Saturday, the Sports Illustrated Resorts 250 at 6 p.m. And on Sunday, the Cracker Barrel 400 at 5 p.m. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us in roughly 15 minutes. But before we get to TD, as we said on the top of the show, we're very proud of Mahoney Donick and the Denison Big Red for making the Division III College World Series. Willie Donick, one proud papa. But I also know that Willie Donick's feeling a bit sad today because for the first time since 2005, the Vanderbilt baseball team will not be participating in the NCAA tournament. 1 year ago, the Vandy boys, the number one overall seed in the tournament. Of course, they also became the first number one national seed to fail to reach the regional final. But nevertheless, they were the number one overall seed in the tournament 1 year ago. And now they are out. And Willie, Tim Corbin said something after Vanderbilt was eliminated from the SEC tournament that I want you to elaborate on because I think it's interesting. Tim Corbin said he plans to, quote unquote, audit the program after this disappointing season. Again, the first time in 21 years that Vanderbilt will not be a part of the Division I baseball tournament. So as Tim Corbin, audits the Vanderbilt program, what should he be focusing on to get the Vandy boys back on track?
I haven't talked to Coach Corbin since the end of the season. So what I'm going to, my outlook will be just my own view and also knowing him pretty well. Like I've known him since basically he took over the program, and he and I have gotten closer over the decades because I was kind of there on the ground floor. And so I think I know what makes him tick to a good degree. So here is what I think. Number one, and I've said this many times before, he cherishes the model of, I find Derrick Mason on a diamond somewhere, and I say, Derrick Mason could be a Vanderbilt guy. That's the kind of guy I want to coach. I like his background. I like how he plays. I like his family. He's a multi-sport athlete. You know, these are the kind of things that I think he views on. He got the program to a point where he was cherry picking basically the best players in the country nationwide if they were admissible to Vanderbilt. So he loves taking somebody like a Derrick Mason where he might see him in the 10th grade. I mean, he's told great stories about a local kid like Sonny Gray, who he saw performing like a school play when he was in the 10th grade. Then he's playing football and winning state championships as a quarterback. It's like, it's a storybook thing, but he loves the relationship and watching somebody grow and not only helping them win games, but also watching them go on into life, whether that's in Major League Baseball or some other facet. Like he loves that process. And there's only one thing he loves more than that process: winning. Mm-hmm. He hates to lose. And so I think he has tried to hold on to as much of that old model. I say old, it's only probably 5 or 7 years old because it changed so radically a few years ago, right? When the NIL and everything changed with NIL and the free ability to transfer, where everybody's a free agent every year. So I think he started down the road last year. So let's not forget, they missed it last year, or they missed it this last year. They missed the tournament. But there's this sense that the program is in decline. They were the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament last year. And this is baseball. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way over a weekend. That's what scares me about Denison, right? That Denison on their level, they've been winning, but that doesn't mean they're going to win the next couple of days because baseball is a funky game. One great pitching performance, a couple of bleeders that find their way. There's a lot of things that can happen in baseball. So I don't think the program is in big decline. This year, there was a lot of things that went wrong out of their control with injuries. but I would say that the model that you're seeing a lot of teams do, I think he when he uses the word audit, I do think he's going to have to do a little philosophical change on how he builds the roster. And I think the key is finding the right guys out of the portal, because I think he still has a big value in bringing his own guys up, freshman to sophomore, sophomore to junior, junior to senior. Those are the guys he loves and wants to continue to develop. But you're going to have some transfers to win now. I don't think there's any way around it. It's hard, even for the top recruited freshmen, to come in and dominate. So I think those are the things that he's looking at. How do I effectively use the portal better? Who am I looking for? What kind of money do you have? Because he's looking over at Clark Lee and Mark Byington. Those guys have made tremendous use of the transfer portal, and it's led to huge success for both of them. So I'm sure Tim Corbin's going, I got to recalibrate my formula as to how to use the portal correctly, when he knows down deep in his heart it's not what he would prefer to do. He would love to go back to the old model, but the old model is in the rear view now, right? It's a new game.
He's a victim of his own success because he was able to do it at such a high level. It's sort of like the organic way. Yeah. He was able to do it the organic way. And there are other coaches within college baseball that have done it the organic way. And like you said, we're only a year removed from them being the number one seed in the college baseball World Series or playoffs. But fans, as we all know, short memory, they want to know, what are you doing for me right now? And what is happening, I think Corb is like that old car racer, and he has his car and he's been tuning this and he's been winning race after race because he's the smart. He knows how to run the race. I don't necessarily have to have the fastest car, but man, I know how to run the race. And ultimately I win at the end. But but that old car guy, after a while, he starts seeing these new cars with these new engines and everything. Yeah. It's like, I'm winning, but eventually I'm going to have to change in order to compete every year. I may win a race here 2 or 3, but if I want to compete on a national level, I have to do some of the things that they're doing. I have to change the model. That's what Corbin has to do. And he understands that. I got to change the model. No, I can still recruit and develop, but I got to have some guys that I bring in from the portal that are veteran players, that are guys that have had starts, guys that know what the moment looks like. Back then, he was able to, sort of develop these guys, and it was one after another. So it's like this stair step. He never had a break in the step. But now, because of NIL, teams are passing him up, not because he don't know how to recruit, but because they are using the margins. They are using the margins.
And I'll give you one other facet that has happened. I'll use Arkansas as an example. Arkansas is a team that's going to get 10,000 fans at a game. They use the transfer portal. They have money. So not only is Vanderbilt trying to find the right guys to come into Vanderbilt, and as Tim Corbin has said, Vanderbilt is a school, and I know people might laugh because they're going to be thinking of Steve Sarkisian, but Vanderbilt will not give you a degree if you're just coming in for your senior year, right? You've got to go to Vanderbilt for something like 60 hours to get a degree.
By the way, Sarkisian did apologize.
He did?
For calling out basket weaving. He did.
Okay.
He did.
He didn't say anything about the raids, though.
He did not say
which
anything.
Was a related term or something that we looked up
he
on
did not bring
Wikipedia.
He did not bring up panty raids.
Panty raids,
he said at the SEC spring meetings, quote, I could have used macroeconomics. I could have used engineering. It wouldn't have mattered. The class was irrelevant, and that was a poor choice of words on my part.
Right.
Quote.
So it's not like you can't just get anybody to transfer into Vanderbilt. But, of course, anybody can transfer out of Vanderbilt. And so Vanderbilt has had a lot of very stacked recruiting classes. So for case in point, there are this set of brothers, McIlvains, who are from just south of Nashville. They've all come through Nashville. But one of them transferred from Vanderbilt to Arkansas. He's contributing for them. Now, A great first baseman, Cam Koziel. Back in the day, you probably wouldn't lose guys like that. They were less inclined to transfer and sit out a year. Now, if you're not playing every day, you're looking to a place you can play every day. So he transferred from Vanderbilt to Arkansas, and that's a big bat that they're missing. These are just examples, right? So it's at Vanderbilt, it's probably because they recruit so well out of high school, and because it's easier to transfer out than it is transfer in. There's kind of a net loss, I think, that they've had in some cases. And I'm not saying I'm not sitting here with the violins out, right? There's a way for them to get back and be elite again. And sometimes you just need a little luck. I think if they were a little healthier this year in the pitching staff, they still would have made the tournament, I think, easily. And you could even argue they're better than Kentucky, who they beat 3 out of 4 times, but Kentucky got the bid. So a lot lined up against them. So it's not gloom and doom, but there definitely is a chance now to recalibrate.
You brought up something interesting earlier, Willie, and I was reading a column from Gentry Estes, friend of the show, of the Tennessean, about Vanderbilt missing the postseason. And he brought up this, quote, the most prominent athletes on Vanderbilt's campus aren't baseball players anymore. I mean, there was a time where the big man on campus was a baseball player, almost exclusively. But now between Diego Pavia and Michaela Blakes, Tyler Tanner, Jared Curtis, there are other sports at Vanderbilt that are using the resources at their disposal to completely change the fortunes of the programs. So it will be interesting to see if Tim Corbin joins Clark Lee and Mark Byington and others there in using those financial advantages at their disposal.
I think he has probably less financial dollars than football and then basketball, but there still should be some, and I think he utilizes it. I have seen him on the record say he doesn't feel good philosophically about, throwing 500 or 700 grand at a premier player who's just out there dangling his hat. How much money will you put in my hat? That's just not, he's not wired that way. But he might have to adapt a little bit if the opportunity strikes to get somebody like who's in the portal, who is a surefire first-round pick, that type of thing. But once again, it's not easy to get all those guys into Vanderbilt necessarily.
Do I have to tap the sign for Tim Corbin? The sign I tap for Willie Donick? I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money.
Right.
Hey, that's the way
Connor knows what I'm talking about. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And maybe that's what Tim Corbin has to do. That's how he has to think. And look, I get it. Willie, you know a lot more about this than I ever will. And I appreciate someone who longs for the past when you put in those hours on those diamonds in the middle of nowhere, looking for those, no pun intended, diamonds in the rough. But as we've learned in college sports today, that is part of it. But a large part of it, a bigger part of it now is, how much can you pay me?
Right. Utilizing your resources to your advantage. And because if you're bringing nothing to the table with resources, you're not going to win. My final point would be this. I know it's very easy to look at the stats this year and say, well, they hit pretty well. Their pitching wasn't very good. What about the pitching coach? Or who? I really believe this down deep. It's not the coach. It's not the pitching coach. It's not the hitting coach. On the margins, I agree with you that can make a difference, but I think those guys are good coaches. The reason they haven't won hasn't been because the kids are poorly coached. I believe it is about numbers, getting back to having the stacked roster. You win when you have a stacked roster. And in the past, that's what they've done. They've had a stacked roster from top to bottom. So I really think it's personnel and not coaching when they get them there. I think they do a fine job of developing players.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Vanderbilt missing the baseball postseason for the first time since 2005. It's been a minute. I don't want to remember what I was like in 2005. 16-year-old Adam, not someone I like to recall fondly. But Your thoughts on that? 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Turron Davenport will join the program. We'll get into the Tennessee Titans with our friend TD coming up next. 615-737-1025. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Gwinnett Stripers at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, Maple Street Biscuit Company, and Social Cantina. D Mace, Vingan and Donick 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Let's go to our phone line. Driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Turron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter. He is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. Hello, TD. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
We are doing well. I hope you are as well. So, Turron, last week I noticed that your colleague Jeremy Fowler at ESPN.com brought up your story about Cam Ward dropping pounds during the offseason. And Fowler wondered if that lighter frame could help Ward's running ability in a Brian Daboll offense that utilizes dual threats. Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, and Jackson Dart, according to Fowler, all averaged at least 7 rushing attempts per game under Brian Daboll. Based on what you've been able to gather, should we expect Cam Ward to be running that amount this season?
No, I wouldn't expect him to be running that amount. And also, you got to remember, one of the things that he said about this whole weight loss journey was it was to help increase durability. You're not going to increase durability if you're, running the football the way Jackson Dart or the way Josh Allen was. I mean, you also got to look at their bodies. Jackson Dart, he's 6'2", 223. Cam was 219 pounds before he lost the 10. So now he's hovering around 210 pounds. He's not built the same as Jackson Dart, and neither of them are built the same as Josh Allen. So this was more of a case-by-case kind of thing, and I don't see him running an awful lot. Will there be some design runs? Sure, but I don't think as much as Jackson Dart. Remember, he had a series of injuries last year.
Turron, you wrote a story for ESPN.com that was published yesterday with the headline, Titans say Carnell Tate was the perfect fit for Cam Ward. You had an opportunity to watch Carnell Tate up close and personal at OTAs last week. For those of us who weren't there, what were your impressions of Carnell Tate watching him live and in living color?
He was really smooth. You could see the route craftsmanship. You could see just the confidence and consistency with his hands. He catches the football really well. And you could definitely tell that they are working on the chemistry. Cam Ward told me, in fact, that he wants Tate to understand early that he's a guy that he's going to and that he trusts him. And I think that's the best way to start off a relationship, especially, with a young quarterback and a rookie receiver.
Now, Turron, we've talked a lot about Carnell Tate, especially in OTAs. How about the other guys that will be surrounding him, the other receivers in the room? Obviously, Ridley is coming off an injury. Then you have the younger guys that need to develop. But how is the group looking?
Yeah, well, Elliotte, Ironman, Chimere DK, they didn't take part in the team period or 7-on-7. But I will say this, they're moving guys around a lot. And when you look at the way Bryce Oliver, he got in and he had a nice deep catch. Lante Taylor was in the coverage area. I think you look at him, you could tell that he's back and he's ready to go. I tell you what was interesting, though, because when you look at Ridley, who wasn't there at that Z position, the veteran that they signed, Osborne, he really got a lot of burn. So I think you look at him, he's a former Viking receiver, but he got some burn. So KJ Osborne was impressive. He caught the ball well. Xavier Restrepo had a couple catches. He's still kind of in the mix as well. Wandale Robinson, he caught a couple nice quick passes, but you could tell they're still working on that chemistry. Cam was a little behind him on a seam route, and it was one of those ones where the quarterback could have made it better, but as a receiver, especially a guy that's looked upon as one of the better ones on the team, you got to make the quarterback honest on that one and help him out a little bit.
Now, you've talked about the other receivers, and you said that Daboll is moving guys around. Is there any possibility, because I'm looking at this from a long-term view, because eventually Ridley will be the guy out more than likely next year, because I'm sure they're going to want to slide another young receiver in there to grow with Cam. But can you see a scenario, because Tate, I hope he does become the number one. And if he does, I see a scenario where moving him around where he's the Z, he's off the ball, and they're moving him around, and they use someone else as an X. Is that a possibility, or do you think they just in their mind right now they have him as at the X and they're going to leave him there?
I think it's a possibility because he did in fact move across the formation.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to cross-train everybody. So you're going to have that even Wan'Dale Robinson playing outside. Now, eventually, they could bring another young receiver in to play that Z position. Mm-hmm. But I really think Tate is going to settle in as the X and be their guy down the field. But when they want to create those matchup problems, they'll do so.
Turron Davenport is with us, ESPN.com, talking with TD, the podcast. TD, how does the backfield look to you right now? I know it's early, but we know Tony Pollard is back and the decisions they made. Give me the guys coming back and the new guys, how you think it fits.
Yeah, well, Nicholas Singleton is not a part of the group right now. He's still rehabbing and getting that Jones fracture right. But Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard, they remain the top guys. Julius Chestnut is in the mix. Khalil Mullins as well. But just like last year, Spears looks very spry. There's a lot of pep in the step, some bounce, some speed. I love the fact that every time he touches the ball, he runs it to the end zone. Those are all good things, and he's continuing to impress. You know, obviously the thing with him is just staying healthy. That's really the main thing. But those three guys, those four guys are pretty much who is made up. Michael Carter is another one. You can't forget about him. And, he got some reps as well.
We're looking at the story from Brennan Sorsby, and I know you do a lot of homework on all the draft people that are eligible. This is an interesting one. If he, in fact, is not allowed to play college football and he goes the route of the supplemental draft, how do you think teams will approach it? What kind of stock does he have best you can tell?
Well, I mean, he's a solid quarterback, but this upcoming draft, actually Jordan Reed just did a story, ESPN's NFL draft analyst, a former quarterback himself, UNC Central. You know, he did a story about the upcoming quarterback. So, I mean, it depends on where Sorsby would come in at as far as like what round pick you would have to use on him. But I don't think teams are going to be too earnest or eager to touch him, quite frankly.
Turron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation Titans reporter, has been our guest on D-Mace. Vingan and Donick, he joins us usually every Monday, but he was kind enough to join us today, and he is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. TD, as always, a pleasure. We'll catch up next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys. Take it easy.
So, as Willie mentioned to Turron, it's been reported by multiple people. I'm reading from Pete Thamel of ESPN. Quote, the NCAA has denied Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's request for reinstatement for eligibility for the 2026 season. Sorsby has completed his 35-day inpatient rehab for his gambling addiction at Algomus in Goodyear, Arizona. And there was a lot of talk earlier this month, that Sorsby could go the supplemental draft route, which we have not seen in the NFL in quite some time. And Sorsby was thought to be a top quarterback prospect in college football this year. So I am curious to see what he does. And if he does go the way of the supplemental draft, what teams would bid on him to get him in?
You know, as you were saying that, I'm thinking, okay, they've already said no, he can't play. So his next possible step is to go into the supplemental draft. Teams, I think there will be a team out there that would be willing to draft him, but they're not going to give up any. It's like the most he get maybe is a 6th round, maybe. 5th is pushing it, but 6th round. If maybe he's satisfied with that, but I'm just thinking like maybe what if he decides to go play in another league for a year? Because I think the worst thing for him to do, is one, to gamble more. But if he's not playing, I think that would lead to possibly him gambling. So go play for another league for a year so people can see you and not just sit out. Maybe he does that. I don't know. But I'm sure, one of the first options would be the supplemental draft. But how many teams right after him coming out of rehab, how many teams are going to touch him? it's almost like, man, just go play in that league for a year, stay relevant, and then come back.
There's so much money that is at the forefront of everything. I'm sure that's leading to a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, what to do. And it's hard, but I hope his people aren't looking at the money, because we had a lot of fun, Adam. I noticed you did not put this on your Billy Joel, we didn't start the fire appreciation for the events of last week while you're gone, but we had a field day at the ridiculousness of Sorsby's argument why he should play. It just didn't make any sense.
Wasn't it that it helped him feel closer to the team?
Yeah. I mean, that was one of it. Yeah, it was one of many things that was just laughable. And I'm thinking, this kid just needs to get well. He needs to address the fact that he's got an addiction problem, and his life is going to go nowhere if he can't kick that, right? So that's the first thing. And then we'll worry about the football. And if he's good enough and he stays mentally healthy and can kick this thing, then we'll find out if he's good enough to play in the NFL. But all of this money and stuff like that is secondary, I think. And so I'm really curious. I hope he's got the right people around him to help with these decisions. This is tough.
To be fair, there were some verses of my "We didn't start the fire" rendition that were left on the cutting room floor.
Okay.
Such as Joey Chestnut on probation, disappointing our great nation.
You should have threw that one in.
I love Joey Chestnut.
Yeah.
I love Joey Chestnut.
Issues.
Yes,
He's got
you
some
should have
issues.
added that.
Is
You should have
there
added that.
anything more American than a guy gorging hot dogs while also on probation? Like on the 4th of July. On the 4th of July, is there anything more American than that? It's apple pie and Joey Chestnut defending his crown on the 4th of July while on probation for allegedly slapping a man on the face during a night out at an Indiana bar.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
well,
I still love you, Joey. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, the Colorado Avalanche. They're on the ropes. Could we find out who the next Predators GM could be tomorrow? We'll discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
if you've lived in Middle Tennessee for any time, then you've seen how wild our weather can be. From winter storms, tornado, floodings, we've seen it all. Like many of you, the winter storm earlier this year caught me unprepared. I lost power for 7 days. That's 7 days out of my house, in a hotel bills, worrying about whether my pipes are going to burst or not. Then I realized being prepared isn't optional anymore. I will be ready the next time the weather emergency happens. I started looking for whole home generators and found Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. They've been in business for over 30 years, specializing in generators for more than half of those, which is all great. But the reason I went with them, or I chose them, was because of the reviews and the confidence other homeowners shared about their experience with Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. When Tri-State came to the house, they did a free on-site assessment and made sure the generator fit my home for me and my family, and didn't oversell me on anything. The thing I appreciated the most is they didn't try to, like I said, oversell me. Just straight answers, turnkey, and they handled everything from installation to long-term services. If something goes wrong, I'm not calling around. As you all know, I hate that. I'm making one call to Tri-State Water, Power, and Air because they've got me covered. That's the kind of relationship I want, and I know that's the kind of relationship you want as well. So look, the weather isn't slowing down anytime soon. It's still raining outside. It's going to be raining for the next 3 or 4 days, so you got to be ready if your power goes out. Call Tri-State Water, Power, and Air today to protect your home and your family. Find them at tristatewhitewait.com. That's tristatewhitewait.com.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Nute here with you. Tonight, Game 4, Colorado at Vegas. The Golden Knights can become the 7th team in NHL history to sweep a best-of-7 series against the league's number 1 seed. The Avalanche are banged up. Nathan MacKinnon, banged up. Cale Makar, banged up. The Avalanche blew a 3-0 lead in Game 3. And it feels like the Avalanche, maybe they'll win a game. Maybe they'll extend the series tonight. But history suggests they're done. And if and when the Avalanche are done, will we find out who the next GM or vice president of hockey operations could be for the Nashville Predators? So over the weekend, Jonah Siegel, not to be confused with Jonas Siegel, who reports on the Toronto Maple Leafs for The Athletic, Jonah Siegel, who is a, quote, longtime sports media and business writer. He's also a freelance contributor to the Toronto Star's sports section, the Toronto Star, one of the major newspapers in Toronto. Jonah Siegel posted on X, quote, if true, won't go over well in Toronto. Lots of buzzing out there. The @Preds NHL will name @Avalanche GM Chris McFarland as their new VP hockey operations, a promotion over GM role he currently has. Could be interesting, end quote. So, of course, this got, to use the word that Jonah Siegel used, it got a lot of people buzzing. And our friend, Elliotte Friedman, who joins us every Thursday at 5 o'clock, he addressed this rumor on his 32 Thoughts podcast earlier this week. Here is part of what Friedman had to say.
If anything is done, I don't believe that Colorado has allowed him to talk or would allow him to talk during the season. I think he's still under contract, but I do believe that Nashville would potentially ask. And the other thing here is, from what a couple of people, because this caused some buzz around the NHL. The other word on him is that he's not going to leave Colorado unless it was just like a huge step up. And, you know, I just don't know that that's what Nashville would want to do. So I think it's just the safest way to put it is, I don't believe they have permission to talk to him. I don't believe there's any agreement in place. So I don't believe this is anywhere near as far along as it's been suggested. But do I think it's possible they will ask to talk to him when Colorado's season is over? Yes. But I think the idea that it's a done deal or he's 100% going there, I think that is way, way, way premature.
So, if you have listened to our weekly interviews with Elliotte Friedman, there are a lot of dots you can connect from the Predators to Chris McFarland. For one, Elliotte has suggested that the Predators want to talk to someone whose team is still alive in the playoffs. Check. That could change tonight because the Avalanche are one loss from elimination, but the Avalanche are still alive in the Stanley Cup playoffs as we sit here at 4:07 Central. Secondly, Elliotte reported several weeks ago that the Predators sought permission from the Carolina Hurricanes to speak to their GM, Eric Tulsky, and were denied. So Nashville has apparently shown interest in sitting GMs. Check. And finally, Elliotte recently said that the Predators want the opportunity to pursue something that isn't guaranteed. And until they are told that whatever that something is an impossibility, they are not going to finalize their search. Check. So, Willie, it seems that McFarland could really be on the Predators' radar if you just connect the dots a little bit.
Yes. And so that was Elliotte yesterday morning.
Correct.
So that's fairly recent. So it was interesting to me, the report. I feel like there's been a couple people that have doubled down on something much closer to it's a done deal. And Elliotte is going to be very careful before he goes to that respect. But I thought it was notable that Elliotte was saying they think they have a chance to talk to him. That is so far from it's a done deal. And so that's my question in all this is it just doesn't seem to me to be a great bet if you're just sitting around, if you're Nashville saying, well, maybe we can talk to McFarland after they're out. I have to believe it's gone to a point where they have a pretty decent signal that there's something here if it's gotten to this point after this amount of time. That's just looking at it logically from afar. Now, if you're asking, why would he leave the position of general manager of Colorado to basically general manager of Nashville?
That is one of the questions, yes.
I think the answer would be, if you look at the structure in Colorado, Joe Sakic is still the man, right? He's not the GM anymore, but he's I don't know what his official title is, but he's the step above. So it's a structure where Joe Sakic, who used to be the general manager in name, is now the president of hockey operations or something like that. You can look up what it is. But I think that would appear to be how McFarland could be able to exit.
Sakic is the president of hockey operations.
Okay. So if he's leaving the GM position to become the president of hockey operations for Nashville, then that might be contractually how he could get out. And to me, that would be the only way that this would be worth pursuing. Because if you're just sitting there going, well, he'll leave, whatever, they have to have a pretty good notion that there's an interest there, or else it wouldn't have gotten this far. Also, if you take a look, Nashville and Colorado, for teams that are in the same division, have made a number of personnel moves. There's been multiple trades between the two teams over the last few years. So there is I think what you would have to say is a good working relationship with Barry Trotz and McFarland. They have done quite a bit of business together.
It would be essentially a vertical move. So then if indeed that's the case, if they're waiting, which I'm with you, Willie, from the standpoint of they wouldn't wait this long if they didn't have some type of insurance that whoever it is, they will be able to get that person to come to be whatever it is they want him to be within the organization, whether it's not president, but GM or some other fat.
The reported title from Jonas Siegel is, quote unquote, vice president of hockey operations.
Yes. So,
which would be a promotion from
him,
general manager of the Colorado Avalanche.
Exactly. So I would just tend to believe that if they don't have a plan, or if they don't have some type of insurance, that would be crazy, because you're waiting this long for what? If you don't have no insurance, that there's a high possibility that you get whatever guy it is, you get them, then why are you doing it? Why didn't you just pick from the guys you had?
And notably, Elliotte mentioned in that same podcast that other candidates have not been told they're out.
Correct.
So at least those other and so I don't know if they do this these days, but every now and then you used to see it in coaching searches on the college level a lot. If a guy was out, they would say so-and-so is taking his name out of the race for this open job.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody
because he wants to make sure he's still got his seat warm in the current place, right? He's
Right.
got recruiting and all that stuff. But I guess nobody feels the need to do that. But I thought it was interesting that Elliotte put that in there, that there's still some people saying, well, I'm still waiting to hear from Nashville.
By the way, some of the players traded by Barry Trotz to the Avalanche: Ryan Johansson, Yakov. I'm not doing the Trenyan thing.
Yes.
Yakov Trenin. Sorry, Yak. Ryan Johansson, Yakov Trenin, Scott Wedgwood, Juuso Parssinen, and Nick Blankenburg. So a lot of trades between Barry Trotz and Chris McFarland. One texter says, so who is the guy responsible for Colorado's success, Sakic or McFarland? Would we get a guy in McFarland who isn't the guy behind Colorado's success? All right, so quickly, let's do a Cliff Notes of Chris McFarland's tenure in Colorado. He has been the GM of the Avalanche for 4 seasons. He was promoted to that position the summer that the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. So after the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup in 2022, Joe Sakic promoted to president of hockey operations. McFarland promoted to GM. He is a finalist for the GM of the Year award this year. Now, as you know, Predators fans from watching the Avalanche, the Avalanche have been in go for it mode under Chris McFarland. So he's not making a lot of draft picks. He's trading a lot of prospects and draft picks, but he's made some savvy and bold moves. He traded Mikko Rantanen for Martin Necas. He traded for Brock Nelson. He traded for Nick Waugh and Nazem Kadri. He's made, remember, the Avalanche had the worst goaltending in the league. I believe it was early last season. And in the span of like a week, he completely flipped it around. He traded for Scott Wedgwood. Justus Annunen came to Nashville. He traded for Mackenzie Blackwood. The two of them won the Jennings Trophy this year as the best goaltending tandem in the NHL. So McFarland has made a lot of bold and savvy moves, but he's been a part of the organization since 2015 when the Avalanche were still building to where they are right now. So although Sakic was in charge of that rebuild, McFarland did play a part in it. But again, it goes back to what we talked about with these assistant GMs. I can't tell you exactly how much responsibility Chris McFarland had as assistant GM of the Avalanche to the Avalanche ultimately winning the Stanley Cup. But you can look at his tenure as Avalanche GM over 4 seasons, and you see a guy who seemingly knows what he's doing. Now, if the Avalanche lose to that and get swept, there are going to be people bringing up, well, maybe he didn't do such a great job. I mean, the Avalanche just ran through the regular season. They're beat up. Nathan McKinnon's nowhere close to 100%. Same with Makar. But it is a good question, though. Who is responsible for the Avalanche's success? I think one way you can answer that question is McFarland certainly played a role in it. How big of a role? I don't know, but he definitely played a role.
I think that would be a question of any assistant GM that we've talked about, all these up-and-coming guys who are the top candidates floating around there. I think it's a fair question to ask. None of us know, and it's such an inexact science. But I think what I would say about the Avs, a couple of things. Like Joe Sakic, if you think of John Elway's role with the Broncos, right? Joe Sakic's got a similar thing. Amazing franchise player who led them to the Cup when the team arrived from Quebec, right? He was the star. And so he's the legend, right? And he is not the guy who's come up through the ranks as the assistant GM. Like, he's been the figurehead guy. And so I think the guys under him deserve a lot of credit for sure. But still, Joe Sakic carries a lot of clout. I think where McFarland probably deserves some praise these last few years is if you compare the teams that are in it every year and trying to keep the window open, right? I think the Avalanche have been given a lot of credit for all those moves you just made. They've surrounded their franchise players with a complimentary group that's been good enough to win it. It doesn't mean you're going to win it. If they lose it this year, it's not because they weren't good enough. It's sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like the two Jedis that they have, Makar and McKinnon, if those guys are hurt, it changes everything. And there's nothing you can do about that as the GM. Like Val Nichushkin's another guy. He didn't play the other day. Other guys like Brock Nelson, supposedly they're all banged up. These are all things you hear. But I think that is a well-constructed roster compared to, say, Edmonton, where I think rightfully so, Bowman, their GM, Stan Bowman, has been criticized for not being able to push the right buttons and get them an improvement in goaltending and address the weaknesses around their Jedis, right? Mm-hmm. McDavid, and Draisaitl. So I think he's done a good job of sustaining the window, and it has cost them resources. Maybe that's part of the reasons he's willing to leave. It's like, hey, look, the cupboard's bare, man. At some point, I enjoy the building process, and now I can go to a place that's got sort of a reset. They've got more assets to work with, and I can help build that roster. But we'll see. I only time will tell. This is all rumored. I just think that if Nashville was sitting there going, well, maybe we can talk to him, maybe we can get permission, I feel like it's got to be further along than that. I'm going to stop way short of saying this is all in the bag, it's a done deal, this is the guy, because I don't know.
615-737-1025. The rumors out there that the Predators are looking to talk to, or if you listen to other people, are prepared to hire Chris McFarland, Avalanche GM, as a part of their front office. The original rumor was as vice president of hockey operations. We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. The Avalanche can be eliminated tonight. Game 4 in Vegas, an 8 p.m. Central puck drop. And it would be something if Vegas pulls this off and goes back to the Stanley Cup final for the third time in 9 seasons, 10 seasons? The Vegas Golden Knights, they're easy to hate. I respect some of the things that they are willing to do. Look, firing Bruce Cassidy at the end of the season and hiring John Tortorella looks like a masterstroke. It did cost them a second-round pick because he didn't talk to reporters after the end of the second round, but hey, they're winning, and that's all that matters. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Trevor Matich will join us. We'll get into the SEC spring meetings, the college football playoff, and more with our friend Trevor coming up next. 615-737-1025. Speaking of us here at 1025, The Game and Maple Street Biscuit Company have teamed up and are giving you a chance to win a pair of tickets in the all-inclusive 501 Club at Bridgestone Arena to the Music City Rodeo, followed by Charlie Crockett this Friday night. Text the keyword rodeo, RODEO, to 615-737-1025 now to enter to win. Team Ace, Bingen and Donick, 102.5. The Game, Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Bingen here with you. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Trevor Matich, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst. Hello, Trevor. How are you?
Good, Adam. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you for joining us as always. So I actually want to start by asking you about a story that recently broke. The NCAA has denied Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's request for reinstatement for eligibility for the 2026 season. And I remember, Trevor, when this story first popped up, there was some discussion about Sorsby entering the NFL's supplemental draft, which we haven't seen in a while. You tell me, because you're the expert. My understanding from what I've read is that Sorsby would have been one of the top quarterback prospects in the 2027 draft. So if you were Sorsby and this is your situation, what would you do? Would you attempt to enter the NFL supplemental draft? Would teams be holding off each other to bid on him to join their team? Would you go play in another league? What would you do? How would you advise Brendan Sorsby now?
If I were Sorsby, I would enter the supplemental draft and see if somebody will set aside the gambling problems as in the past, because he is and was projected to be one of the better, if not best, NFL prospects, draftable prospects coming out of college after this upcoming season. And that doesn't change. What changes is the problem that if you've got a guy who's addicted to gambling in your locker room, it can cause all kinds of problems. And even if he doesn't gamble, everybody looking at him sideways in case he did cause problems is still a problem. Now, if NFL teams aren't willing to really give him much of a chance, it'll be pretty apparent in terms of where he's drafted in the supplemental or if he's not drafted at all. And if he's not drafted at all, I think the only chance he has is to go to another league, but he's got lots of options. I mean, he could go to Canada. I'm not sure exactly how suited he is up there. But he is faster than people think. He's a really good runner, and that's important in the Canadian League. Just ask Doug Flutie. And, of course, he can play in the XFL as well. And so he's got lots of options. If he does not win his appeal in court, his football career is not necessarily over. But it all comes down to, what do teams think of the risk of bringing in Sorsby? Do they believe his problems are in the past, or do they believe he will be another Kurt Schlichter, former Ohio State quarterback, who never was able to put his gambling problems behind him?
Sad story. Art Schlichter, that's
yes.
one from the past for sure.
Sorry. Yeah.
Trevor,
Thank you,
the SEC spring meetings are underway in Florida, and Greg Sankey kicked off the proceedings by tempering expectations about the 2014 college football playoff. He said, quote, "If you could overhype a spring meeting, I think that happened," end quote. And that's going to be the discussion, the main topic of discussion, of course, throughout the next few days. Put that to the side. What is the most interesting storyline at the SEC spring meetings to you outside of the 2014 college football playoff?
Well, it's Kirby Smart is reported as saying that he's the Georgia head coach, that the SEC should go it alone if college football can't come up with rules that everybody can abide by, everybody can compete with, everybody will depend on. He thinks the SEC should just make their own rules and move on. And that really made my eyes open up wide, because there's been speculation that the SEC could partner with the Big Ten and do that very same thing. But if the SEC goes along without the Big Ten, could they even do it? And I don't know that that was necessarily a quote by Kirby as something that was a reasonable course of action, or if that was just to shake up the potatoes in the bag a little bit and really float what might happen if the SEC keeps getting subordinated to the Big Ten. On the field, they've been subordinated to the Big Ten in terms of national championships the last 3 years. And now the Big Ten is saying that, they want the 2014 playoff, and the SEC says they want 16 or 12. And I don't think the SEC wants to be subordinate to the Big Ten. So I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Kirby was the one to come out with that, so that Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, could deny that that's what they're actually thinking about, while the idea was still being floated as a plausible threat. So, Steve Spurrier called it talking season, and right now, talking season has taken some very interesting turns.
We'll talk with Trevor Matich, ESPN, NFL, and college analyst. Now, Trevor, Saleh came out last week and talked about a lot of things during OTAs, but I think one of the things that sort of caught the headlines is him saying we've removed oilseed from our diet. Went to the nutritionist and said, hey, listen, this is probably what's best for the team, and probably some other things as well. As a former player, one, has that ever been done in the building you were in? And two, what do you think he's trying to do when he's taking something like seed oil out of the building? What do you think he's trying to do as a whole?
Okay, you broke up a little bit there. Just give me the gist of that one more time, just the short version.
Saleh removed seed oil from the diet, from the locker room.
Okay, yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that is a good idea. It is a very good idea. Nutrition is medicine. Food is medicine. And we're learning more and more, or at least we're coming to accept more and more research that inflammation in the body causes all kinds of problems in terms of long-term disease processes, but also in terms of short-term athletic performance. Because if your body is overly inflamed, it can affect your endurance, it can affect your recovery time, all those different things. And by eating more cleanly, you can get an edge over what you were before. Seed oils, and I don't want to disparage seed oils right now, but just to say there's a lot of research out there that show that they cause inflammation. Now, I don't want to be the one to say definitively that that's the case, just to say that that's out there. And oils like olive oil and coconut oil are said to have the opposite effect, that they help to diminish inflammation in the body. When I was playing in Washington, now Commanders, my mom was a nutritionist. She had a master's in nutrition and taught in a junior college for about 30 years, home economics and nutrition. And when I walked into the pregame meal for the first time, everything they had was breaded and fried. Even the pasta was sitting there in butter, like an inch deep. There was nothing that wasn't heavy fat, heavy fried, heavy breaded. And I asked the trainer, I said, look, can you just put some stuff out, like the broccoli, just put steamed broccoli out there and let us add our own butter to it if we want. He said, nope, this is the way we're doing it, right? And maybe he was right back then. But right now, with players having their own nutritionists and with everybody looking for the smallest of edges, I think looking at what might cause inflammation in the body and how to reduce it is a good thing to look into.
Yeah, because we were talking earlier in the show about winning, around the margins. And I think this is one of those things that you may not think it's a big deal, but when this league is so competitive and there's balance and the league wants you to go 8-8, and we know we can't do that anymore, but the league wants everyone to be 8-8. When you do things like this within your building, you're trying to get an edge at the margins that another team may not be thinking about.
And look at Tom Brady, right? He, I think, is going to become more and more the model of how to do it perfectly from the standpoint of taking care of your body. And he did nothing that would detract. The only things he did in preparation in terms of what he ate and how he slept and all the other things were things that he believed would either be neutral or accreditive to his ability to perform at the highest level for the longest possible period of time. Now, some guys are so athletically gifted, they can eat nothing but lard out of a can and white sugar with a spoon, and they'd still play for 12 years and make the Hall of Fame. The question is, were they as good as they could have been, and did they play as long as they could have played? But for most of us, we need to find the edges where we can find them, because most of us aren't the best physically and most talented, and Brady wasn't either. He just was the best prepared and the most disciplined.
Trevor Matich is with us, talking football with him. Then, Trevor, let's yo-yo back to the college ranks. I'm curious your thought of how Greg Sankey approaches the SEC meetings and then beyond. So let's start with just the SEC championship game. I'm sure that's going to get a lot of discussion. There's some people that really cherish it, but if the playoffs are going to expand, which I think we all believe that's going to happen in some form, can you have the SEC championship game and still expect, if you're a coach, to turn right around and win 4 postseason games?
Yeah, I think that you kind of have to be in that position, right? And the thing about Sankey and the way he handles things is that he's very measured. I think underneath, I think he's a vicious, violent Conan the Barbarian, laying waste to everybody and everything with his sword. But the way he comes across in doing it, I think, is more. It's more measured. It's more calm. He wants information. He doesn't want to make emotional decisions. And the SEC championship game will bring in anywhere from $50 to $100 million, depending on who you ask, for the game. I think it's worth about $50 million, according to AI, for the SEC every year. So to get rid of that is an issue from a financial standpoint. You'd have to make up that money with the added playoff games. But I think you also are looking at, and I think Sankey is looking at this, because I think Nick Saban looked at this as well. What's best for college football? I mean, is it really best for college football to turn college conferences into the equivalents of NFL divisions? I mean, right now, conference championship games are being talked about as detrimental to your ability to win in the playoff, because it's an extra game against a quality opponent. If you lose it, you might miss the playoff altogether, where you might have won it if you hadn't taken that last loss. If you win it, you still might get more banged up. Look at the Big Ten championship game last year. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza took a vicious hit, and that could have knocked him out of that game and the playoff. And would they have said, look, would have been worth it to us to not play him in that game, right? I think other teams would tend to look at that. And if you look at, the NFC South, or excuse me, AFC South, if the Titans were number 1 in the division at the end of this regular season, and the Texans were number 2, and their seeding was already squared away, and they played in an AFC South championship game before the playoffs started, who would care? Nobody would care. Nobody cares now, except for how division championships factor into seeding. And I would hate to see, forget the money, I would hate to see college football turn into another model of that, where your division or your conference is just a sideshow as it relates to seeding in the larger playoff, because it would basically eliminate what has made college football unique and amazing over the course of more than a century. And I think Greg Sankey is looking at that in addition to what the finances are, as he's thinking about what the best number for the playoffs are, at least in the short term.
And that leads to a broader philosophical question, and that is, I believe, and I think others have said this, I think Greg Sankey said this, football is really not cut out to be a tournament sport, right? And that's what we're talking about if we go to 24 or 28. It's a tournament. And there seems to be a group of people, and Trevor, you're the right guy to ask, because you and I and Derrick, I'll exclude Adam, do remember the days where there were a lot of programs that if you finished 8-3 and you won the Alamo Bowl, or you won the Citrus Bowl, or you won the Music City Bowl, okay, solid season. Maybe not the best season, maybe we'll be better next year, but there was a satisfaction that system worked for a lot of teams. And it looks like that is going to be as compromised as it is now. It could even go to another level if you go to 24 or 28 teams, where the only measure of success is going to be, did you make the playoffs or not? Do you think that will still be out there for discussion as we move forward here, or is the money just going to cloud everything?
I think the money will ultimately win. I think coaches want more teams in the playoff, because then they have a better chance of being able to say, hey, I was a playoff team, instead of, I was a Weed Eater Bowl team, right? And so I think coaches want that. It gives them a better chance to show success to boosters. And so I think that's one of the reasons they're doing it. But if you look at the Big Ten with 18 teams in it, we used to have the Pac-8 with 8 teams, the Big 8 with 8 teams. The Big Ten only had 10 teams. That was super weird, right? And now all of a sudden, I think the SEC has 16 now or something. And
so have we lost something here, Trevor, for the era that you played in? Have you lost something with that bowl system?
Yes, absolutely. At the time, there were only 14 or 15 bowls back in the day when I was playing, and when you made a bowl, it was a very, very big deal. And we lose rivalries. I mean, it used to be that Oklahoma, Nebraska was appointment viewing. It was good versus evil. Coach Tom Osborne and Nebraska were the team of the Angels, and Barry Switzer in Oklahoma were shooting guns in the athletic door, right? And when they met, man, was it, you had to watch, and now they don't play anymore. They just don't, because the Big Ten, I guess it was, ended up splitting them off in divisions. And anyway, and so, but do people miss it now? I mean, is it really a loss because people don't even think about it? And when you look at, conferences that have so many teams in them right now, we talked about the equivalent to NFL divisions with 4 teams at least. You play each other division member twice during the season. It does matter. These divisions in college conferences are so big that, you're not going to be playing them a lot. And, how do you know with the conference championship? That's why from a 24-team playoff, if it goes that big, and even 16, I like the SEC suggestion that you have automatic bids for like 4 teams or 5 in the Big Ten and the SEC, maybe 3 in the Big Ten and ACC, because then you can schedule difficult games non-conference and lose them and still finish in the top 4 of the SEC and still make the playoff. And I think that's better for college football fans because, Texas went up to Ohio State last year and lost early in the season. And Steve Sarkisian, their coach, says that's why they missed the playoffs, was that loss. If they would have scheduled University of Ohio instead of Ohio State, they probably would have made the playoffs last year. And so the incentive is to schedule weaker non-conference flows, which is better for you, but it's worse for college football as a whole. If you give conferences automatic bids for their conference finishes, you've got a better chance to have better games overall. And plus, but then you have another problem like Ohio State, Michigan at the end of the season. That's another appointment viewing game. But what if they're locked into their seeds in a 2014 playoff? And so they decide to rest their starters in that game, And, there's all kinds of ifs that make certain games less relevant than they used to be. And Willie, your original question is, do we lose something because of it? And I think that the more the college football moves towards an NFL model where the only thing that really matters is A, make the playoffs, and then A1, win the Super Bowl, and nothing else really matters, then college football will be diminished by taking away what's made it great for many generations.
Trevor Matich has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan and Donick. He joins us every Tuesday talking NFL and college football. Trevor, as always, a pleasure. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, guys.
615-737-1025. We'll continue this conversation from SEC spring meetings coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. That was SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey yesterday, kicking off SEC spring meetings, of course, talking about the fate of the college football playoff. Is it going to be 24? Is it going to be 16? Is it going to be 40? Who the hell knows? It's going to be something.
And now I'm hearing 28.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
where does 28 come from?
Oh my
How did we do that? I
30
missed
is
that
going to be next. 32.
It's going to keep growing and growing and growing
until you get everybody in.
Yes. And speaking of that, David Ubben of The Athletic did an interesting story last week where he fact-checked Big Ten Deputy Commissioner Kerry Kenny, who said that if the college football playoff started with 24 teams when it began in 2014, 80 different schools would have qualified over the last 12 years. And Ubben checked his work, and Kerry Kenny was correct. 80 different schools would have qualified over the past 12 years if the CFP started with 24 teams in 2014. Here's my question. Of those 80 teams, how many would have actually had a chance to win the national championship?
So there's how many Division I teams?
300.
No.
Nope.
Not in football.
No. I don't know.
Because we're the F.
I'm thinking
in
of
the
basketball.
Right. In the FBS?
I always get those two confused.
It used to be 1A and 1AA. If you take out the 1AAs, you're left with what, 100 and change? Something like that? 125?
I believe there are, well, according to Wikipedia, which I'm always kind of wary about Wikipedia, 138.
Yeah.
Okay.
138 schools
all right,
in
so
FBS.
they may off. It varies from year to year. There's a
Yes.
team that leaves, team that come back. 138. So 80 of 138. But it comes down to this. Is football a tournament sport? No.
Greg Sankey said
It is
as much.
not.
He said, quote, hold on, let me get the quote. He said, and I quote, I've never thought football was a tournament sport.
Right.
End quote.
That should be where everything starts. In the NFL, there's only 32 teams. There's not 138, right? There's 32. And they have expanded the playoffs there, but it still means something to make the playoffs, and you don't have to win 5 games to win the whole thing. In football, if you're going to keep the conference championship games, which are worth $100 million a year or whatever that is, and then you're going to have a, quote, tournament with that many rounds, it just doesn't make sense. That's not football. That's not how football should be determined to a championship, with the attrition and the way the game is played. You can't play 3 football games in a week. It'd be different if that were the case. So they're going down a road that is completely getting away from what is the essence of the sport. And 2, God forbid you would do anything on behalf of the kids themselves, right? And not forcing the kids to play 6 postseason games. If my math is right, you could play a conference championship game and have to win as many as 5 postseason games, right? That doesn't make any sense.
Football, the minute they went from, getting the 2 teams at the end of the season, and those 2 teams, the BCS mode, those 2 teams play. The minute it went from 2 to 4, it became a tournament sport. It just did, because you knew eventually it was going to be more than that. And what is the goal? To get into the college football playoff, which is a tournament. That's what it is. So the minute they went from just 2, who's the top 2 teams in the country, number 1 and number 2, that's when it wasn't a tournament sport, because we had to play the season out. And that determined who was going to the national championship game. Now, the minute they went from that to 2, they opened the door. They unlocked the door. Then they went to what they are. They completely opened the door. It is now a tournament sport, from the Big Ten, SEC championship, ACC championship games to college playoffs now. And it's only going to grow. So when he says college football isn't a tournament sport, yes, it is. It's become a tournament sport.
And I do appreciate Mike Elko, head coach of Texas A&M, and I have a soft spot for Mike Elko because he did coach Duke for a minute. Mike Elko, he said this perfectly today at SEC meetings. Quote, there's two sides to that conversation about expanding the college football playoff. There's the good of college football, where we better be really careful. I don't know why we're trying to become a trophy sport. Then there's self-preservation. And so if you really ask me on record, what does Mike Elko want? I want 40, because then I'll make it and then I won't get fired. End quote. I appreciate that. He's being truthful. No notes on that, Mike Elko.
But after a while, and I think you brought this up, Willie, it may have been last week or we talked about it. Is that going to be enough? Just getting in. If you open it up 24, 28,
eventually,
38,
no.
The bar is lower.
Exactly.
The bar
so
is
will
lower,
that be enough? It's going to be, well, you need to get
you
into
haven't
the
been winning in the
quarterfinals.
playoffs.
Exactly. How many games have you won?
You haven't made the
playoffs?
Final Four. All that, it'll naturally go that way. There's going to be, I think, equal amounts of pressure on the coaches, no matter what the system is. So the whole thing of self-preservation, I think that's short-sighted by a coach saying, well, expand and then I'll keep my job. That's not how it works. We know that fan bases, rabid fan bases, will never be satisfied unless you win a national championship at certain programs. But if you're at the top and you're trying to win, don't you think you should be advocating to keep it at 12? I don't know if we can go back to 4, but just think about needing to win, having your system all set up, your approach to winning every game, and then having to win 2 postseason games, or 3 if you count the conference championship game. The approach has to be different if you think you've got to win almost double the amount of postseason games, because now you got to be building depth. You got to be thinking look, we just talked about how difficult it is to win the Stanley Cup. The Avalanche have been the best team all year long, but now they're in the third round of the playoffs. Their 2 best players are nowhere near 100%. They've got other injuries, and that is the challenge of the NHL. Football is even more predisposed to injuries and attrition. So you got a bigger chance of losing your quarterback or your key edge rusher, your offensive tackle. And in this day and age with the transfer portal, it's not like you got 5-star guys backing up and things like that. Depth would be important. But if you're the best team, don't you want less games? That minimizes the chances you're going to get upset. So I just think football is cut out to have less postseason as opposed to more postseason. And I get it. It's all about money, but think past that. They're making a lot of money.
They want more.
It's healthy.
They want more, Willie. We all know
I know.
that. Listen, Sark said
There's got to be something that's a boundary, though.
nothing. Sark,
There is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Sark said it. Listen, had they not scheduled Ohio State,
Right, and they did Ohio U instead of Ohio.
Somebody, yeah,
a MAC team.
Just any other team except Ohio State, because it ended up hurting them.
Yep.
So if they would have scheduled, so he knows that it's the tournament sport. All we need to do is get in, because that's what it's about now. Just getting in. Once you get in, then the real season starts. It doesn't start.
Yeah, Miami was a just get in. They barely got in, and they almost won the thing.
Absolutely. So this, as Sankey said, he doesn't want it to become a tournament sport. It's a tournament sport already. There's no stopping it. Now, you don't want it to get to 28, 20, 24, 28, or even beyond that, but it has become a tournament sport already.
615-737-1025. We've got some reaction. We'll get to it coming up next. I also have a question about the Titans now that we know that they will be hosting Super Bowl, I believe it's 64 in 2030. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan, and Connor Nute here with you. Congratulations to the New York Knicks, who are off to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. And guys, I'm not one to call out professional athletes for quitting. I don't like to use those terms to describe professional athletes because professional athletes are prideful. And who am I to say that I could accomplish anything that these players on the court have accomplished? I don't like to use the word quit, but to quote Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA, quote, "Kids at home, if you want to see what the word quit means, to give up, the verb of that is Cavaliers," end quote. Like, you could see the life force being sucked out of the Cleveland Cavaliers over the course of that series. They blew the huge lead in game one.
That was the series right there.
And never recovered. Not even Taylor Swift at courtside could save the Cleveland Cavaliers. But congrats to the Knicks. Off to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. And we could get, if I'm not mistaken, a 1999 NBA Finals rematch if the San Antonio Spurs defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Long are the days of Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell and Tim Duncan and David Robinson. But, man, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they up and quick.
And it was a good – they just announced that their coach, Atkinson, is coming back, and they should. Nobody thought Cleveland was going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it was a good season. And if you'd have said before the season, they're going to trade Darius Garland and they're going to make the Eastern Conference Final, people would be like, what movie script are you writing? Come on, there's no way. So to win 2 rounds, which included, 2 Game 7s, right? That's a good year. This is all in the whole, either you win it all or you stink. Like, I think there are times where you look at a season and say, they got about as much out of that group as you can get. Now the question is any chance that you can get LeBron to come back? I don't know.
Well, you know what? You know me.
If you put him on that team, I think that'd be a really interesting team.
You know me. I appreciate coaches who study the numbers. So when Kenny Atkinson said the other day, analytically, we've won 2 of the first 3 games. I'm like, first of all, Kenny, I do appreciate that you look at the analytics. 2, don't say that.
Right. It doesn't fly.
When you're down 3-0 in a series, don't say, well, analytically, we've won 2 of the 3 games.
I got to give Max Hers credit because he's a smart aleck a lot of times. And there are times where I have, on the bus after a road game, looked at the analytics, not on the air, but on the bus. And I said, hey, the Predators in the expected goals area, they had a big advantage there. Like they had a shot advantage, they had a chances advantage, blah, blah, blah. And Max turned around one time and he said, did we win the expected broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you did. When we talk about the margins and, and we talked about that in regards to Salah, football, and whatnot, but that also applies when it comes to basketball. It's eye popping to look at this. Everyone on the Knicks team, let's just take the starting 5, Anunoby, Towns, Hart, Bridges, and Brunson. Every one of those guys were plus. They were double-digit plus. Contrast to Cleveland's top 5. They were double digits, but everybody except Max Struss was minus 23, 19, 30, and 22. Max was the only guy that was closer to a plus than any one of them, and he was minus 9. You're never going to win a game when every one of your starting 5s are in minuses. And then you look across the court and everybody on their team, not just the starting 5, but everybody on their team are plus. They're adding to their team, the margins, the things that matter. Cleveland just didn't at all. And Cleveland has a good team. I've watched Cleveland throughout the year. Do they have the greatest team? No, I think that the East might have been a little weak this year. Not taking anything from what the Knicks did, but it was surprised that Cleveland beat Detroit. Detroit just don't have enough shooters. Well, hell, they only have one shooter, and that's Cade. But I'm looking at this team, and I'm like, they're a good team, but in order to advance, you have to play a brand of basketball that is winning basketball. And Cleveland never played winning basketball throughout the whole series.
So who's going to get those pricey courtside seats for the New York Knicks when they host their first game in the NBA Finals at Madison Square Garden? You know, Spike Lee's going to be down there. Timothy Chalamet, he's going to be down there. Ben Stiller, I would assume, is going to be down there.
It's got to be down.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is going to be down there? By the way, did you see there was a report from the New York Post that at least 10 Knicks fans with courtside seats for Game 4 in Cleveland, including rapper Fat Joe, were called by he's less fat now. He's slightly less Fat Joe. Including rapper and superfan Fat Joe were called by a Cavaliers executive and told they no longer had those seats. The fans were relocated from their courtside seats to a higher section inside the arena for Game 4.
It's weird because I can understand from this now. You want, if you're the home team, because every home team I think does it, they try to minimize how many tickets the visitor gets, and they want to keep them out of the building. In this case, you sold the tickets, because this was the story. You sold the tickets to them, and then you realize, oh my goodness, well, you had to sign a contract where you couldn't do all these certain things, and it was like, okay, we're cool with that. But then you went another step further and said, well, you can't cheer, you can't do all this other stuff. And that's the point where they were like, nah, how are you going to stop a fan if you're going to sell them the seats? Because they sold them the seats. They purchased the seats.
And just exorbitant prices, too.
And they came back and took the seats away. But if I'm a fan, my ticket shouldn't be taken away because I'm going to cheer for my fan. Or you shouldn't tell me, I'm going to sell you those seats, but you can't cheer for your team. You can't wear a jersey. You can't wear the colors of your team. Who does that?
Well, I think it's becoming a bigger thing across sports. We talked about it here remember the battle for the Predators to recapture the real estate when a team like Chicago would come in. Like they built their system. It cost them money, and they had the fans to replace them, but they valued keeping the atmosphere full of their own fans. And the opposite has been true with the Titans, and they're not alone, right? I think it's become so much more routine for visiting fans. It's like, oh, we'll go to X city. Our team's playing there. It's cheap. It's cheaper over there. We'll fly in there. We'll budget this money. We'll get in there. And there's a lot of takeovers, right? If there's some bad NBA teams, I'll use Washington as an example. There's no comparison between a Capitals game and a Wizards game because the Wizards have not been a good team by and large for decades, right? And so it is constantly overrun by the other team's fans. Whereas the Capitals, they've got their fans in there. So winning is a big part of it, but also your system. And you get into the issue. Remember Joel Embiid said, hey, wait, I'll pay, don't give up your seats, but it's too late at that point. So Knicks fans are everywhere. They're excited. So I don't know what it'll look like in San Antonio or Oklahoma City, but I'll say this. You watch an OKC game or a San Antonio game, they got their fans in there. Yeah. So I wonder if Knicks fans will be able to get in there.
And by the way, Game 5, Spurs at Thunder tonight, 7:30 p.m. Central on NBC. But speaking of finals, the Tennessee Titans, as we all know, it was announced last week, the Tennessee Titans will host the Super Bowl in 2030 at the conclusion of the 2029 NFL season. So here is my question for the two of you and all of you at 615-737-1025. How important is it for the Titans to be competitive by the season they host the Super Bowl? That is the 2029 season, the Super Bowl being played at the end of that season in 2030. This is not to say that the Titans need to be in the Super Bowl in Nashville in 2030. There have only been two teams in NFL history that have played the Super Bowl in their home stadium. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady and the LA Rams the following year. And if memory serves, both teams won those Super Bowls. So I'm not saying the Titans need to be in the Super Bowl in Nashville in 2030. But how important is it for them to be competitive that season or by that season. And I went back and looked at how all of the host teams in recent years have fared during the regular season. And it's been a mixed bag between good and bad. The 49ers, for example, this past season, were 12-5. The year before that, the Saints were 5-12. The Raiders were 8-9. The Cardinals were 4-13. The Rams were 12-5. The Chargers were 9-8. The Buccaneers were 11-5. So it's been a mixed bag of teams hosting the Super Bowl that have been playoff teams and non-playoff teams. So how important, Derrick, is it for the Titans to be competitive by the season they host the Super Bowl?
I think it's extremely important. If they're not competitive, there may be changes. Because that, 3 years out? If you're not fielding a competitive team after you didn't draft a quarterback number 1, you didn't draft a receiver 5th overall, you brought in these free agents, you more than likely has re-signed your left guard to a huge deal. So people are in place, and not to say the guys you're going to draft in the next 2 years. You were brought in here. This staff was brought in here. And this new GM was brought in here. Well, second-year GM was brought in here to change the fortunes of this team quicker than what, maybe we would expect. But they were brought in here to change this team. Why? They're moving into a new stadium. And now, Super Bowl is coming in here in 2030. But you can kind of move that out of the way. It's about, do we have a competitive team going into that new stadium? Because you're asking people, and we've talked about this plenty of times, you're asking people to pay this type of money for a losing team. You weren't getting people to barely come to the games now, and people are complaining. So if you're not fielding a team when they open up this new stadium, let alone the Super Bowl, it would be a colossal failure if you don't have a competitive team by the Super Bowl. It would be, because essentially we would have 3 years to field a team.
And again, I want to emphasize, I'm not saying the Titans need to
be
in the Super Bowl
yes,
at Nissan Stadium, but at least be competitive, be in the mix for the playoffs.
I think you need to be in the playoffs, honestly.
I think there's plenty of time between now and then. Like they've been going through the process. And if they're playing their cards right, then that would be a natural step. And I can think back through the year. There's plenty of great examples where the ideal thing is you get that new energy from a new stadium and the team is good. There's no better example than the Titans when it was the Oilers, all that transition from Houston, playing in Memphis, playing at Vanderbilt. And then all of a sudden, everything came together. New stadium, new uniforms, and boom, the team was great. And boy, you catch a fever that was almost unmatched, right? That's the highest level of everything. I think of, there's great examples of baseball. Cleveland, the back when they were called the Indians, right? They played in the Mistake by the Lake, Municipal Stadium, 80,000 cavernous seats, right? And if you've watched the movie Major League, at some point, what that history was. They went for decades without having a good team at all. But when they opened up the new stadium, which at that point was called Jacobs Field, it came together. All of a sudden, they had a good group of people, and they were good, and they fed off of that for a long time. That's the ideal scenario, I think, for the Titans. But it's critical because of what Derrick hinted at before. The prices that they're charging for the new seats. If you want your fans in there, which you should, then the team, it's important that the team is good when that stadium opens to maximize getting Titans fans there. Because if not, they'll probably find somebody to buy it, but it won't be Titans fans. They're going to have enough problems with that anyway.
Yeah, but if you take it, it's been 3 years since they've been in the playoffs? Is it 3 or 4?
Yes. I've lost all sense of time.
3 years. And if you're
2021
was the last time
when they were the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And so
they didn't
22, the drop off.
Yep.
The Titans have not made the playoffs since 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's four straight years.
4 consecutive seasons.
So if you don't have a playoff team, that would be 7 years. 7 years without seeing a playoff game. And 2 of them would be in that new stadium, or 3 of them would be in that new stadium. 3 would be in that new stadium. It's imperative for them to field a playoff team, not just For them to field a winning team,
Let's say
heading into the new stadium, they got to field a competitive
let's
team.
say in the 2029 season,
Uh-huh.
that's the season the Titans are hosting the Super Bowl
Yes.
because the Super Bowl will be played at the beginning of
30.
2030. Let's say the Titans are 9-8 and they finish in second place in the AFC South, but don't make the playoff.
I don't think that's good enough still.
In 2030?
Yeah, that 2029.
Or the first year that the stadium opens?
No,
No.
2 years after the stadium opened.
The year
Yeah.
they're hosting the Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
I think they have to field a player. Now, if they field a playoff team before then, and then the next year or year after that, they get, injuries, that stuff happens. But at least they would have fielded a playoff team prior, a year, 2 years prior to going into the for the Super Bowl coming here. But if they don't field a playoff team in that span, considering they hadn't been in the playoffs since 2021, people are going to be upset.
Well, okay, so let's take maybe the biggest part of the equation there, and that is where will Cam Ward be at that point? So that's the 2029 season,
Correct.
right? 2030 Super Bowl. So this is his second year coming up. That's 2026.
27 would be
27.
3, 28 would be 4, 29 would be 5. It would be his
Okay,
fifth,
so it'd be his fifth year.
in
So
the league.
he could be on the fifth year option or first year of a new contract if
need
it
to be in the
goes that way.
playoffs.
Well, but also remember what happens when you're on your second contract.
Mhm.
You're making a lot more money, and that tweaks
Mhm.
your ability to fill out the salary cap. Like the ideal thing is if he is doing well and he's still on his first contract, you have that much more money to spend on the rest of the roster. So he's going to be at a situation in his contract where it's going to come down a lot to how are they drafting between now and then, because you need those guys on the
Yeah.
first contract to be able to really field the type of roster that gives you a chance.
One texter says, if the Titans are not at least in the conversation to make the playoffs when we host the Super Bowl, ownership needs to change. They have 3 years to get it together. Let's go to our friend Adam in Portland on our phone line. Adam, thank you for calling and waiting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I haven't even thought about the Titans being in the Super Bowl until you guys have had this conversation. Now I'm like, what if the stars align and we somehow go to the Super Bowl?
You haven't thought about that?
Well, I knew we had the Super Bowl, but that's where my head is. I've never even thought about the Titans being a part of it. But wouldn't that just be a magical miracle thing if we saw? Who knows, man? Who knows the steps they're going to take? I think we got a lot of work to do until you get there. I do have a question, though, and the reason I was calling you guys. So we play our last game against the Steelers. Everybody leaves the building. Is it like the same day that they blow that up? Because they got a lot of work to do, right? If you're hosting the Super Bowl, you got to build like a little, like you're supposed to build shopping and I think affordable. I don't know what they're building back there, but they're supposed to be doing a lot. How quickly did they blow that thing up?
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah,
now I'm picturing the fans leaving Nissan Stadium after that final game, and there are construction workers with TNT just waiting for the last person to leave.
Wait for everybody to cross the bridge.
You better not be dilly dallying in the bathroom. I'm just imagining.
You better not get caught in the bathroom.
Someone with multiple sticks of dynamite just waiting for the last person to leave the old Nissan Stadium. I don't know exactly when
That's a good question.
they are going to start demolishing the old Nissan Stadium. As Adam mentioned, they are building a mixed-use development or whatever around the new Nissan
I'm sure it would
Stadium.
have to be not too long after they move in because the Super Bowl would be 2 years, 3 years after that.
I'm just imagining also now the game is going on and people are just starting to take apart Nissan Stadium. Like during the game, they're taking down the Nissan outside the stadium. They're just wrapping it up as the game is going on, getting a head start. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, there was something that happened. I think it was yesterday. I think it came out yesterday that I did not imagine would happen in my wildest dreams. A little bit too much TMI from Will Levis's mom. We are going to discuss this coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. That was Beth Levis, Will Levis's mother, on the Ross Tucker podcast. And if you're wondering, what the hell is she talking about?
That was me. I raised my hand. I was like, what? You sent that to us, Adam? I was like, I have no idea what she's talking about.
So have y'all heard of the Streisand effect?
I know who Barbara Streisand is.
Indeed.
I don't know about the
effect. It does
effect.
involve Barbara Streisand.
Okay.
This is the definition via Wikipedia. The Streisand effect describes a situation where an attempt to hide, remove, or censor information results in the unintended consequence of the effort, instead increasing public awareness of the information.
That definition, that I would be in that category.
The only
I had no idea
difference,
what
of
you're talking
course,
about. Now I do.
The only difference, of course, is Beth Levis isn't trying to hide, remove, or censor information. She was sharing it willingly. So, in case you missed all of this, a couple of years ago, Will Levis was in a relationship with some sort of influencer. I think her name is Gia Duddy or something, and I apologize to all of the Gia Duddy fans out there. And there were some explicit videos that leaked. You can assume what those explicit videos were. And Will Levis's mom, Beth, was on the Ross Tucker podcast sharing the story behind her lifestyle brand. It's called Chill Life. And Chill Life, from the website, is, quote, a purpose-driven lifestyle brand built to inspire positivity, presence, and real connection. We're here to help people step away from screens and come back to what matters: stronger relationships, healthier minds, and the confidence to be your best self, end quote.
I like that.
But here's the weird part of all of this. Other than the fact that it's Will Levis's mom talking about Will Levis's leaked sex tape or whatever, Ross Tucker did not explicitly ask Beth Levis about that specific incident. The question was, and I quote, "What is the chill lifestyle and brand about?" End quote. And his mom was basically like, "Well, let me tell you about my son's leaked sex tape." That's basically what happened. So here's some background from our friend Nick Suss at the Tennessean. Quote, the images leaked in May 2024 as Levis was heading into his second season with the Titans and preparing for his first full season as the starting quarterback. Levis never publicly acknowledged the leaks, but was subject to several questions and conversations about the roles of technology and social media in his development. His cell phone number was also leaked to the public later in the fall of 2024, and Levis's social media and marketing accounts created viral moments because of his Hellman's mayonnaise ads and his quirky videos dating back to college that featured Levis mixing mayo into coffee or eating unpeeled bananas. End quote. But here's this is where all of you people are sick. So I went to Google Analytics because you can look at search history and all of that stuff. Type in Will Levis, and the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 top searches over the past number of years is Will Levis, Gia Duddy, Gia Duddy, Will Levis video, Gia Duddy video. Y'all are sick. There are also some Will Levis draft, Will Levis stats, but also it's like Will Levis
Mayo.
But I just thought it was very strange because Beth Levis wants to go on a popular podcast and promote her brand, what inspired her brand. That's great. But it was very strange to me because I wanted to make, like, I saw the clip that we played that made the rounds on social media. And my first thought was, why is Ross Tucker asking Beth Levis about Will Levis's leaked tape? Mm-hmm. I went and listened to the podcast. He did not ask that question explicitly. She just said, well, there are a couple of reasons why this brand means so much to me. And let me share one of the reasons. And it shared what happened when this stuff came out. I just thought the whole thing was very strange.
I mean, I think what she was trying to do, because, you know, what is it? The chill lifestyle?
Chill life, I believe.
Chill life.
I believe
moving
that's what
people
it's called.
away from screens and getting off of social media and stuff like that. Because probably one of the reasons why she chose to, you know, get this business up and going is because of what happened to her son, and because, you know, it was so out there on the internet. Now, I heard about the story, when it first happened, but it almost came and went very quickly. Like you heard about it, and then by the time the season came around, no one was talking about it. But now she's brought it back to the forefront again. I don't know how Will Levis feels about that. Mom, please. But I think it all ties into, and I'm trying to make sense of this, not to say it doesn't, but it all ties into, I think, her chill life sort of mantra or business. Getting away from those things that are going to distract you, that upset you or whatnot, being in a state of peace. In a sense. So, and that her son went through, she saw it firsthand. He probably saw it all over the internet, when he searched his name. And that probably, in her mind, took him away from what was important because he was so fixated on who did this, why did they do it, and everything else. And they probably would get inundated with emails and texts, to his social media. So I'm trying to understand why she would say that if Ross Tucker didn't bring it up. But the only thing I can come up with is it sort of connects her brand. The brand connects to what happened to her son. And listen, moms are going to do that. They're going to try to protect the son at all costs. And sometimes, it's like, Mom, I wish you wouldn't have brought that up. Everybody forgot.
Yeah, because it brought it back up.
Absolutely. But I mean, listen, you just got to chalk it up as it being your mother. Do you get mad? I mean,
Mom,
you can get upset, but it's like,
I really hope she talked to him before that. Like, hey, Will, I'm going on Ross Tucker's podcast. I may be asked about why I am so passionate about this, and I'm going to bring up what happened. So hopefully Will Levis wasn't like, Mom, what are you doing? It was just it was very strange. And I am curious. Back to football for a moment, thankfully. I am curious about Will Levis this season and how this version of Will Levis off of shoulder surgery makes it through camp with Cam Ward as the starter and Mitch Trubisky brought in as an experienced backup. We've talked about if Will Levis could be traded, but I wonder, a year away, shoulder surgery, I'm wondering what frame of mind Will Levis is in right now and what frame of mind he's going to be in this offseason.
But he got some pretty high marks last week, right? For how he was throwing, how he, quote, looked. Certainly, people were looking to see how he threw the ball, and he passed a lot of tests. Bill Barnwell from ESPN, we covered this some on Friday's show, his assessment from where he sits. He's an analytics guy, and his assessment was, particularly on offense, the Titans overspent on players that aren't worth what they're going to get paid. And we explained that a lot. We got into that. When you're sort of desperate and you have money to spend, on the front end you're overpaying. But it's still, if the net result is your team gets better, then you can live with it, at least for a while. But in one of the examples he used was Trubisky. Now, they brought in Trubisky to as much be a mentor for Cam Ward as they did him being a winning backup. And so Barnwell said, why not just, pay the, you're paying for somebody that hasn't been that good, hasn't won a lot of games. But we know that's not why they brought him in. They brought him in because he knows Daboll's offense, and he can hopefully be a good influence on Cam Ward. But I do wonder how they are going to tackle. What if they are watching the two guys and they think, well, Will Levis is flat out better than Mitch Trubisky? Well, how do they weigh that if that's where it goes there?
We talked to TD last week about this, and I asked him, how is this whole quarterback thing going to play out? And because Mitch Trubisky has to know that he's the backup, but I'm sure he knows that I'm the backup. So if we are trying to trade Will Levis, we're going to have to get him some snaps. He's going to have to be in the game. So the way I see this thing going is Cam's going to get the bulk of it. We already know Mitch Trubisky can do. We got to see what Will Levis can do. or continue to do, or is he better than what he was the last time we seen him? Why? Because we gotta trade him to somebody. And if we can show people
Showcase him.
showcase him, then that gives us the best opportunity to trade him. But if we just let this be a Cam and Trubisky thing, you're not showcasing the one piece that you probably can get. Maybe if he goes out there and compete well and shows that he's a much better quarterback, you may be able to give a fifth round pick out of him, depending on the desperation of the teams coming out of camp. If they really need a backup, or if their starter got hurt and they need a starter.
Remember way back when you were playing, Derrick, it looked that way with Neil O'Donnell.
Yeah.
And remember, Billy Volek was lighting it up in the preseason, and there was a salary cap component to this, right? They were crunched for money. They cut Neil O'Donnell and kept Billy Volek, and it shocked the whole league, really. And they ended up bringing Neil O'Donnell back, and they had to sort of beg him to come back, and he made him sweat before he said yes. So, and he ended up coming back and winning a game or two at the end of the season. But I do wonder if Will Levis does what he can do to make a great impression, and he's just clearly better than Trubisky, then what do you do? I do think he could make that a little bit tougher.
One texter says, is Will even in the building and back from California yet? Yes, he was at OTAs last week.
Well, Nick Suss wrote some pretty complimentary things about the way Levis was throwing the ball.
Jerry says, don't you have to get on the internet in order to check out the chill life? I mean,
Beth
Levis.
I guess so.
You got to think of a different way. But look, that clip made the rounds of Will Levis's mom talking about her son's sex tape. I'm like, what is going on here? Why is somebody asking her about this? And then I found out that nobody asked her about it. She just brought it up. But
hey, chalk it up to being a mom, man.
Yeah, moms say things
moms
they shouldn't
get away
say.
with things, okay?
Yeah, 615-737-1025. I'm scared to take your thoughts on Will Levis and Beth Levis, but you can share them anyway. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derrick Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, wrapping up the show. Tomorrow on the program, Shayna Goldman of The Athletic will join us. The Athletic is going through all of the non-playoff teams in the NHL and looking at how close or how far those non-playoff teams are from being Stanley Cup contenders. They have this formula, a Stanley Cup contender checklist. And Shayna wrote the story about the Predators. Really interesting stuff. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. Shayna is going to join the program at 3:20 to talk about that. Really interesting stuff. We'll see if the Predators have a GM or vice president of hockey operations, depending on the outcome of tonight's game. Colorado at Vegas, Game 4, 8 p.m. Central puck drop. Colorado on the verge of being swept. I believe, as I said earlier, they would be the 7th number 1 seed in the Stanley Cup playoffs to be swept at any point.
Man, whew, I don't think no one saw this coming.
No. Vegas, it would be so Vegas. For the Golden Knights, remember, a week and a half, a couple of weeks, Willie, before the playoffs, we were wondering if the Golden Knights would even make the playoffs. They fired Bruce Cassidy with like 5 games left in the season. They bring in John Tortorella. Now they can't be stopped. And they are 1 win away from their 3rd Stanley Cup final in their brief existence.
It's got to drive a lot of teams in the league mad, how they just continue to find ways to stay towards the top, even though they make these radical moves and they mortgage the future. And you think, well, it's going to catch up to them this year. Well, It hadn't got up to them. And now here they are 1 win away. I really thought that with the bracket, the way it was, I thought that Vegas benefited from being in the Pacific bracket because the Pacific was quite a bit weaker than the Central. But here they are. They get the opportunity. And look, this is taking nothing away from how good they are. They're a really good team. They made the coaching switch, but I think the biggest thing is I think there were probably what percentage of the teams do you think crossed off Carter Hart and would say we have no interest because of what happened?
Most, if not, well, not all.
I would say most, right? There's more than half of the teams, let's say safely said.
Yes.
They just would not consider. But Vegas has the other way. Like, we can get him cheap. And he is a talented goalie. And for those that don't know what happened, he had an off the ice, let's just keep it there, and a very controversial thing that was up in Canada that he was exonerated from. And he did not have as big a role as some of his teammates on a team when they were all, 17 or 18 years old.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But long story short, a talented goalie that was available cheap. They were desperate for a goalie.
Their goaltending was
awful. He was awful because he hadn't played in the league for 3 years because of this situation. But now here he is. He's playing at a high level, and it's making a big difference. So that is a gamble that they won. And they're getting to play the best team in hockey that their 2 superstars are playing way less than 100%. They're taking full advantage.
That is Game 4 tonight, an 8 p.m. Central start, really more like 8:15 with all of the pomp and circumstance. Also, Game 5 of the Western Conference Final in the NBA, San Antonio at Oklahoma City, a 7:30 p.m. Central-ish tip-off. That series is tied at 2 apiece. I saw this from David Ubben of The Athletic. Quote, SoCon Saturday and the SEC is dead. The league's teams will all play a conference game on the penultimate weekend of the regular season, Commissioner Greg Sankey says. So no more Alabama versus Alabama A&M right before the end of the regular season. It's going to be a conference game, according to Greg Sankey. I always did find that a bit strange.
If you're going to do it, get it out of the way early in the year.
You know, Tennessee plays all of these conference games, and then the week before the end of the regular season, before they play Vanderbilt, it's like, here comes Chattanooga. Like, it just doesn't. No offense to Chattanooga. I love
like the mini
love
bye.
Chattanooga.
It was like the quasi bye where you can rest some guys, you can get some guys healthy, and still win the game. Again, I don't blame coaches for doing it that way, because to win the amount of games you got to win in a quote tournament now.
Yes, that's what it is.
football is not a tournament sport, but
Yes,
they're
it
turning
is.
it into one where you're going to play a tournament. Being able to do that late in the season would be valuable. Now you can't do that. So this is, again, becoming an attrition situation. And I wonder what it's going to look like. There's going to be some teams that were the best team all year long that are dealing to tie it in with the Avalanche, right? There's more of a chance that that kind of thing happens, where the best team is just compromised with injury somewhere along the line in the postseason, and it mars what would have been a championship year. There's more of a chance of that happening.
Well, that's why you get those easy games like that out of the way early in your first, 5 games, somewhere around there. So because people don't want to see Alabama State.
No,
From
a fan standpoint,
November, late November, December. No one wants to see that. They want to see good football headed into the SEC championship, the Big Ten championship. They don't want a team playing this team and then coming back playing the tough team and then the tournament team if they are going into the tournament. So not to say you can't play them, just play them earlier in the season.
This from USA Today earlier I thought was interesting. Officials at Ole Miss and the SEC have spoken about a potential reprimand for new LSU coach Lane Kiffin over comments he made in a recent Vanity Fair magazine interview. 2 people close to the situation tell USA Today Sports. Kiffin, however, is standing firm. He didn't make racially insensitive comments about the differences in recruiting at Ole Miss and LSU. Quote, "People don't read the actual words I used in the article. I said a parent said. That's not me saying it as my opinion."
They're making it worse. Why didn't just leave it alone?
Any potential sanctions against Kiffin, a public reprimand, a fine, or both, will likely be further discussed this week.
Okay, can we talk about the potential reprimand?
Like, what would be?
Okay, so you don't even know if you're going to get the reprimand. But what is the penalty for a reprimand? You stand there and you take it, and then you move on, right? Who cares if you get and you're like, ooh, a potential reprimand? Well, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. Who cares? What's he all worried about?
Nothing should happen. Like, why are they even making this? Like, it was in the story. I mean, it was in the headlines. We talked about it. And I think people just kind of like, okay, we move on to the next story. Now, the SEC want to bring it back up. Like, why? Y'all got away with talking about it. And now we're going to talk about it again. And if you reprimand him or if you fine him, it's going to make it even worse.
Can you imagine, like, the league office calls Ole Miss, hey, or calls Lane Kiffin's people, just beware because we might potentially reprimand you. Ooh, okay, I'll take that into account.
What is the reprimand? We don't know yet, but we might.
It's going to be.
It might be a public reprimand. Oh, now I'm really scared.
SEC letterhead. Ooh.
It's going to be released to the media.
I mean, look,
public reprimand.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
Man.
It was
SEC,
it was a short-sighted thing to say by Lane Kiffin. I mean, Lane Kiffin is used to saying short-sighted things. You know, I don't think he needs to be publicly or potentially publicly reprimanded for something he said in an article. I mean, Steve Sarkisian apologized today for bringing up basket weaving.
My gosh, stop it.
I should have used macroeconomics. Okay, well, you said basket weaving. Like, don't apologize. You don't need to apologize. Like, look, there are certain things that you need to apologize for.
Yes.
Saying at Ole Miss you can get a degree basket weaving is not something that you need to apologize for.
Is it true?
No, it's not true. I don't think there's a basket weaving degree at Ole Miss.
And for the record, I don't think if my life depended on it, I could weave a basket if I had to. So it can't be. It's not that easy.
This is what they're going to do. I picture it now.
All right, here's the potentially public
reprimand. No, it's not. It's going to be a private.
Oh, it's going to be private
reprimand. They're going to call Lane Kiffin into the office. Lane's going to come with his agent, everybody. Lane's going to sit down. He's going to say, so what did you come up with? You know, he's going to pull out his drawer. Sankey. He's going to pull out his drawer. He's going to shuffle around. He's going to pull out this ruler, the brown ruler.
A ruler.
Stick out your hand.
Oh, old school.
Right. You can leave. That's your reprimand.
Like
right
the nun
there.
at Catholic school.
Absolutely. That's going to be his reprimand right there.
Okay, well, we'll see if Lane Kiffin gets a thrashing of some kind or a strongly worded letter about his comments in Vanity Fair. But that'll do it for us today. I'm glad to be back. We've got more to discuss tomorrow. Once again, Shayna Goldman of The Athletic will join us tomorrow to talk about her analysis of the Predators. We'll see if we have any more information on the Predators GM search. We'll talk Titans. We'll talk, who knows? Maybe Beth Levis will say something else about her son's sex tape between now and tomorrow. Who the hell knows? But whatever it is, we will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow. You will be listening to us starting at 3 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. As I always say, we're going to be talking, and
You're going to be listening.
peace out, and we love you.